This is a TalkStation original podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Paper Boys podcast. I'm JJ Smith.
And I'm Zack Nally.
And this is where I would normally say we're reporters with the Carteret News-Times.
Don't.
But I can't say that today because somebody is a former News-Times sports reporter. But you're
still
not
in his heart.
But you're not the only former News-Times sports reporter in the room
We have
today.
some more in the room with us.
4 of us. Former News-Times. Well,
3.
Yeah.
You're still trapped.
My God, the level of talent and intellect in this room right now.
Is that what we're going to call
God,
it?
the door is open because
Okay.
it wouldn't be able to hold us. We have Evans Kistler, a.k.a. the K-Man.
That's right, yeah.
We have Craig Ramey, a.k.a. Greg Ramey.
My alter ego thing gets away with a lot of stuff.
Gentlemen, thanks for being with us.
It's so great to be here, man.
So the reason there's 4 News-Times sports reporters, former, current, whatever, in the room right now is because we are going to remember Dennis Thomason, a.k.a. Dennis Dale Thomason, a.k.a. DT, who...
AKA Stump.
Stump.
That's right.
The original.
That, oh, yes.
The original nickname.
That's
right.
right.
Back in the Lexington County High School days.
Yes.
In the 60s. That's right. So Dennis left us very suddenly and unexpectedly in February, which is kind of a funny thing to say about someone in their mid-70s. But Dennis was pretty good shape. I mean, he was working full-time. That was not a phone call we expected to get in February. So very sad. And Zack wrote a column about his passing, and I wrote a column about his passing. But, man, Dennis Dale Thomason lived a life, and he requires more than just a couple of columns. He requires a podcast as well. So he hired Craig, he hired me, he hired Evans, he hired Zack, even though he probably had no right to hire any of us because none of us had a journalism degree.
No.
None of us had any experience working for a newspaper.
None.
No, I worked at the East Carolinian. That
Okay.
was all I had going on.
Well, that's something.
Yeah. I had a clip.
Yeah.
I had clips that I could show
Yeah.
what I had done.
But otherwise, he was just going off of, he was like, I'm going to hire people that I can train
Yeah.
the way I want them trained.
Yeah, when he told me I was hired, I was like, "What are you doing, man? Me?" I mean, I was ecstatic, but really?
Well, that's a perfect segue. So let's start right from the beginning, our first impressions of Dennis and what it meant to all of us to be hired to write for a living, because that can be a rare thing in this world. And Craig, we'll start with you.
I mean, so I went to school for creative writing, but that's not really where you're going to get a job, right? So I knew I got that degree, but I was a little bit worried about where it would go. And being able to go in there and talk to Dennis, having not been in school for a while, having been waiting tables at the time and doing an overnight DJ job that was awful, but to go in there and have him just like accept me for the amount of experience that I had, better or worse, and just want to talk to me and just kind of get to know me. So we really just hung out. It was I remember the interview was in a conference room. It was just him and I. Later in the day, he was chill, like in his, not in sweatpants, but he was in like a very relaxed Dennis Thomason uniform. But I was like, I'm not really a sports guy, right?
Right.
I played sports in high school, but really just football.
Right.
And
I did that for the girls, probably.
What's that?
Did that for the girls.
I
probably.
did, yeah. And coincidentally, though, Dennis used to be a reporter at the Lexington paper, which covered my high school when I was a kid. So
wow.
It's unconfirmed, but when we did the math, Dennis and I talked about it. It is very possible that he covered a game
Oh, my gosh.
while I was on the field playing.
That's
and so
wild.
That was one of those conversations that came up during the interview, right? It was like,
Yeah.
I'm from Lexington, I'm from Thomasville. They're right next to each other.
Well, that was your in right there.
Right?
For sure.
Yeah, it didn't hurt.
No
Right?
doubt.
That part didn't hurt. But yeah, but then getting to the part was like, but I'm not really a sports guy. And he was like, I'm not really either. I'm not
True.
looking for a sports guy.
True.
I'm looking for somebody that I can train, somebody who is a good writer, and somebody I can spend time with because we're going to be spending a lot of time together.
He did talk about that.
Yeah.
Dennis's only love of sports was who could touch this line before the other person could
Yeah,
touch this line.
that's right.
Anything to do with racing.
Yeah.
Boat, bicycle, feet, it did not matter.
Running, yeah, later on, his obsession with Lance Armstrong was incredible. Yeah, he loved Lance Armstrong.
Yeah.
And was a vehement defender of him.
Okay.
For the longest time.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of his last columns was about how when Lance was getting all that negative press, he wrote a column defending it, saying how it was all not true and people were just out to get him.
God bless, he was loyal.
I don't think he wrote another column after it came out.
After how that one went.
After
how that landed.
Yeah, but you're right. He did love racing. I forgot about that. The NASCAR was also a big thing he went to.
NASCAR.
That was really the only major sporting event that he would go to, right?
Yeah.
Or really like only trip and vacation he would take.
Sure,
too.
they would go weekends. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
And he loved like the America's Cup. anything to do with one person
Sailing?
finish ahead of somebody else. Yeah, yeah. All right, what about you, K-Man?
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, like Craig, I kind of came in. I was an English teacher at Havelock Middle School at the time.
A job you had loved.
I loved it. I loved it. For all the people listening, it was a great job, and I loved every minute of it.
So much so you were looking to get out for 1 year.
I was looking to get out.
Had you gone to college for teaching?
I
or-
went to college for theater and communication studies. So I've had a long.
Thought you were headed to Hollywood.
I did for a moment, and then that didn't happen.
Or Wilmington.
Or Wilmington, yeah.
Yeah.
I was there, and then the only experience I had with news at all was I had gotten a gig right out of college for doing the news and the weather and the traffic for the big Talker FM. It's no longer there in Wilmington.
So you and Craig are going to have that in common.
Yeah.
So I had about 2 months of working there, and that's the only experience I had ever had with newscasting of any time.
Okay.
So when I went and filled out the application, I thought, oh, there's no way. There's no way I'm even going to get a call.
Right.
And then Dennis called me, and he said, hey, why don't you come on in? And I came into the office, and like Craig, we were in a small conference room, and we're just sitting there chatting. He goes, yeah, this guy from this paper called. And I was like, why do you want to come down here? He goes, well, I just want to move to the beach. And he'd been a sports writer for 20 years. And I was like, I'm just wasting my time now.
He's got too much experience.
Yes. And Dennis said, he said, what I'm really looking for is a guy who doesn't have any experience, who just wants to come in. And I was like, this is great. I'm your man.
You got him.
You got me. And that was kind of Dennis.
That's what he wanted.
Yeah.
That's how he wanted what.
It's funny you mentioned that because he was kind of I don't want anybody who's been doing it like 10, 15, 20 years. He would show me resumes. He's like, I'm not getting him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, I don't think he trusted people coming down here because he was like, I don't know if they're going to stick around.
Right.
Yeah.
They might go somewhere else.
Well, that's one of the things he said in the interview. He said, if I give you the job, you need to promise me that you'll stay here for at least 2 years.
Yeah.
2 years, that
Always
was his thing.
2.
Yeah.
2 years. He said, because that way you'll go through the same losing season a couple times or the same sport that you can't stand to cover. Wow. And you'll know at that point, after you do it the first time, you're kind of like, okay, well, whatever. But if you've done it twice and you still can't handle it, then you'll know this isn't for you. He actually tried to talk me out of taking the job during the interview.
That's another thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He said, you're going to hate it. You got a young kid and you'll be out at night. And this is really not a day job. It's a night and afternoon job. And
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was
Oh
that
my
was
God,
it.
these are incredible. Well, because
He had a routine.
well, and we were people who needed a chance. We were not desperate,
Yeah.
but certainly desperate, maybe
Yeah.
to some degree, to get into a job like this. And kudos to him, man, for taking a chance on these people.
Like you.
Well, sir. Okay, we'll move on here. So you don't know this. I applied multiple times to the News-Times.
One of your dreams in life was to work at the Carteret
I wanted to work in the
News-Times.
newspaper.
God bless.
I even quit a job being young. There was a restaurant I worked at one summer. I worked there for one day, and I walked out the end of that day, and they said, "Where are you going?" I said, "Thank you for the opportunity. I've been offered a job at the newspaper, and I've got to go." There was no job. I had to get out there. I couldn't just tell them that I hated it.
And where was that? Go ahead and tell everybody.
A clam digger somewhere over there. And anyway, so I applied. I guess it was a paper application at that time. This
Okay.
was, we weren't digital yet.
Uh-huh.
And I thought, well, I need to look sharp. I need to have my tucked in my shirt and my pants, and I had this beard at that point, and I said, you got to get rid of that. And I had just cut my hair real short, and so I
And
completely.
you should know that you had a beard your whole adult life, right?
Okay, I mean, as much as I could.
Okay.
From the time that it could start, I
Okay.
had not. And at this point, I'm 24, so yeah, you're right, 6
Yeah.
years of having something.
Uh-huh.
And so I go home and I shave the whole thing.
Much to your wife's chagrin.
My wife, I mean, on the floor laughing because I looked like a baby seal because I didn't have any as a buzz cut and just, double chin where you didn't have one before when you were 18. And, but, I go into that interview and I'm ready to wow them with my professionalism. And around the corner comes a man wearing blue sweatpants, a Cosby sweater, and he's got this big grizzly gray beard, unkempt as all beards could be, and wild hair,
curly,
and he's about 4 foot nothing. He comes around the corner and he says, "Are you Zack?" And I okay, and we go back there and we talk. And actually, you know what? To be honest, here's something you don't know. There was a thing I forgot. He emailed me to try to line up an interview, and I missed the email.
Oh, when you applied earlier.
Yeah, when I had when I applied when I'd gotten the job.
Oh.
And he had emailed me, and I had missed it. And it was a week later, and he sent a follow-up, just checking to see if you were still interested in that job. And of course, what do I say? You know, I was just totally humbled and said I needed this job, and I missed the email. I don't know how that could happen. And I went in there, and he was, you know, full of grace. And I don't know what we talked about. You guys have such vivid memories of everything you talked about. I don't remember anything. I remember we laughed about the beard. I told him that I had shaved my beard to get this job, and he told me what it would require, and I just wanted to write. I mean, he could have told me.
Because you were doing stuff like Bleacher Report.
Yeah. Before Bleacher Report was
right.
what it is now.
It was like fan.
It was just fan.
Uh-huh.
Writing. But I mean, if they had said, you know, part of the job is scrubbing the baseboards, I'd have said, right on. I'm your guy. And so I went home, and he called me that night, and he said, "You can go ahead and start growing your beard back because you've got a job and you can have a beard."
Nice.
And, so that was pretty great. And our first kid was born I don't know, 2 months later. I mean, that's how close we were to you know. So I'm always grateful that he gave me that job right when I needed it.
You know, you saying that makes me think of something. The reason I have such vivid memories about that interview is because I never needed a break on a job more than I did at that moment. Like I'd had like really bad, crummy jobs.
You did like a lot of restaurant stuff, right?
I'd done a lot of restaurant stuff.
I was waiting tables.
Yeah, I'd done restaurant stuff, but like when I lived in Oregon, I was like doing night janitor stuff.
Oh,
and
wow.
Like real like telemarketer.
This felt like
for
a real job.
That's what I'm saying. Like I was like,
you know what I mean?
I need to get my first like air quote real job.
Sitting at a desk.
And I feel
with
like
a computer.
I felt so big time. I felt so big time with my corded phone and my big old desk facing Dennis Thomason the whole time. I was like, I've made it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think he sensed that I needed that. I think he sensed that you needed that. I think probably with all of us that like he could see that we were a little bit hungry but had our act together enough to where we weren't going to be a
hungry
problem.
and willing to do whatever it took to make it work.
And so I always credit Dennis when I think about anywhere I am in my career. It always takes somebody to give you that first chance.
Yeah.
That's like you can do that professional job,
and
then everything can kind of go after that if you can do that one right. And for sure, that if he had not taken a chance on me that I did not deserve,
that's exactly how I put it in the column. He gave me a chance I had not earned. That's exactly what it felt like.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned having kids, so for me, he said, oh, you're gonna have to go out at night. For me, that was the selling point. I could be at home with them all day.
Sure.
And watch them take their first steps and do their things. And by the time I leave to go to a game, they're going to sleep anyway.
That's exactly right. That was what I told him. I said, that's what I'm looking for.
You sold me.
You sold me. Yeah, you were trying to not get me to agree, and I'm like, that's even better. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned, him having so much grace with you missing the email. Not to throw Evans under the bus. I'm going to go ahead and throw Evans under the bus.
That makes sense, yeah.
When Evans applied for the job on your application, you had a misspelling.
Oh, I did. That's right. I did, yes.
What was the word you misspelled?
I can't even. Was it sports writer?
Sports.
It was. Yeah, it was sports. I did. It was a typo in sports. That's correct. And that was one of the things he joked about. That's right.
Because you did spurts.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah. Talk about grace.
Yeah, that was. He laughed about it and thought it was funny. And I thought, wow, that's really.
You're like, man, he must be desperate.
That's right.
No, he was like, well, if there's one rule I have is they can't be into sports.
That's right. So
if he can't even spell it, then
no, he's my man. Yeah. Well, you all were all like probably early 20s, all the three of you, right? I was early 30s, so I had been out in the real world for like 10 years, and I was kind of like Craig. You name it, I had done it. I was retail clothing, I sold insurance, I was a mailman, I worked at like Henry's Tackles Warehouse, I was a security guard, I delivered pizzas, my God, you name it, I had done it. Quite aimless, quite not knowing what I wanted to do with my life. And at the time, I was a security guard at the Duke Marine Lab. And it was overnight. You were just making sure Duke students didn't, fall overboard and drown, basically. And I would go through the library, pick up the News-Times, and read it. And I would go through the help wanted ads because I was not super content being a security guard. And it said sports reporter, and it said at the end of it, it was like no education and no experience required. I said, that sounds like me. So I applied and I emailed him, and Dennis started at the News-Times in 1989. I don't think I mentioned how long. He was 35 years he was a sports editor at the News-Times.
Wow.
So I grew up reading Dennis Thomason and Bruce Paul. I mean, if I read about sports in Carteret County, it was one of those guys. And I'm kind of throwing that in there because I'm like, I don't have any experience in any education, so I need to kind of hustle my way. I was like, Dennis, I've been reading you for years. If I remember the days you'd write about Joe Montford and all these people, and he was like, oh my God. And I was like, yeah. And so I took Zack and I raised him. Now I didn't just shave. I came not knowing that journalists are half of them are just slobs. I came in my Sunday best, full suit and tie, black leather shoes. I was going to Sunday school, and God, he'll never let me live that down after he hired me. But like you said, in the conference room, just chatting, same thing. 2 years. Tried to talk me out of it. The pay's not great. The schedule's crazy. You're not going to get rich and famous. And no matter how hard he tried to talk all of us out of it, none of us would say no. We all wanted to do that.
Yeah.
And I was like, Craig, I needed a break so bad. I needed some direction and to have like a real grown-up professional job. And I remember like vividly standing in my kitchen in my house in Otway that I was renting, and him calling and being like, yeah, I had people, apply that had all this experience, and this guy so-and-so, he's been doing it 10 years.
Yeah.
You don't really have any, and a couple people with journalism. And I was like, God, I didn't get it. And then he hemmed and hawed and just kept me on that line, just reeling it in. And then finally it was like, so, just show up Monday and we'll get to town. And oh my God, I was through the roof. I had to go into work that night doing my rounds, and my feet did not touch the ground that night.
That's
I was
so great.
So excited. So fired up. My aunt and uncle came down, great aunt and uncle from Raleigh, like a couple nights later, and they stopped by. They're like, your mom told us about the sports reporter job. And nobody in my family was expecting me to get paid to write for a living at this point. I had not shown any signs of any promise anywhere. They're like, you're going to be a sports reporter for a newspaper. And I was like, how about that? God, I was just beaming. So
and just listening to everybody's stories, I put myself in Dennis's shoes as he hangs up the phone. What a good chuckle he must have had.
Of course,
knowing that he had handed these people an opportunity that they had really
needed so bad. Mm-hmm. So Dennis, 35 years at the newspaper. So let's talk about Dennis. And we've already alluded to it quite a bit here. Let's talk about some quirks and idiosyncrasies and just Dennis being Dennis. What jumps out at you, Zack?
Dennis was a great boss.
Fantastic boss.
Yeah,
he could get angry.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he could, but he would call you back 15 minutes later, and he would say, you know what, that was a little harsh. I apologize for that. And I don't know. He just he was a real person, and in every way, shape, and form, he loved his job. He loved what he did, and it was his duty. He felt to support his writers in every way he could.
You're never going to work for a more laid-back boss than Dennis.
No, he was extremely laid back, but at the same time, he was not afraid to let you know what you had done wrong in a constructive way, which was really important. And now being older, I see that's hard. That's not an easy thing to do, to tell a young person, hey, what you're doing is not right. You need to do it this way. And he just did it in such a way that it was great.
Yeah. Zack, you said something that reminded me of when you talk about like he could like get upset really quickly.
Sure.
It reminded me of one lesson I've always taken from working with Dennis is he showed me the art of hammering out an angry email really fast and saving it.
Sure.
And then if you still feel like you need to send it tomorrow, send it. And in my career and in my life, I have gotten out so much frustration without breaking work relationships.
Nice.
Just by writing those emails and saving them and not sending them the next day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes he
you
would
send them.
Yeah,
that's the next thing I was going to
wake up the
say.
next morning and he'd say,
the long email he sent you where he was so mad would be equally as long as the apology.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I should have
That's
done that.
exactly
That was
right.
wrong. I apologize.
I know you're doing your best and this and that. And,
And the cool one thing Craig touched on there is maybe not sending it, but another lesson Dennis would teach you is no hard feelings.
Yeah.
No grudges. If he did get mad and he was fired up, the next day was all totally behind you.
That's right.
There was no, I'm holding that against somebody. And Dennis could like get mad and
He could.
like curse words, and
Yeah.
he went from 1 to 10 in about 2 seconds.
There wasn't a whole lot of 2 to 9.
Either or.
But then an hour later, he was like laughing and carrying on with you, and
Yeah.
it was fine. I mean, he could let
Well,
it go.
and you bring that. So I think my very first time experiencing the other side of Dennis, late night version of Dennis, was during Big Rock, and you're up late.
We're going to talk quite a bit about Big Rock.
And I called him up, and he sounded like Santa Claus. I mean, he sounded as happy-go-lucky as he could have possibly been. And I put my phone down, and I said, turn to Christina, I think he's had a nightcap or two.
That was
He just sounded so. I mean, yeah.
How about quirks, Evans?
Well, I mean, just about him being fired up, as equally fired up as he could be, he had a good way of calming you down. At least me. And when JJ saw a little while ago and said, "Hey, we're going to think about some things about Dennis," and I thought about one. He goes, "Why don't you tell about the time about the soccer?" So. Croatan girls soccer.
Is this the long trip?
Yeah.
I know this story.
It's legend at this point.
Croatan girls soccer had made it to like the 3rd or 4th round in the state. And so at this point, they're going all over the state. And they were going to go play at First Flight, which is like...
Kill Devil Hills.
Yeah, it's like 3.5, 4 hours away.
You can get to Raleigh quicker.
You could.
Yeah.
And so Dennis says, well, here's the game.
Was it a Friday night?
I think
it was Friday night.
Yeah. So I even called the school just to double check.
Back in the day, there was no Max Press.
There was none of that.
Right.
Yeah. It was not online.
Right.
Online was still in its early stages.
That's right.
So you had to call and make sure and verify. And I called the school, and they said, yeah, the game's tonight. Come on down.
Yeah.
So I leave early, and I'm going, and I pull up, and I remember it very vividly. I pull up, and I look up there, and it says, 4th round of the state playoffs tomorrow night, on the marquee. And the string of obscenities. My children who listen know that I don't have the cleanest of mouths, so they can only imagine how furious I was at this woman. And I called up Dennis, and I just, for about 5 minutes, I mean, it was like an Eddie Murphy sketch, how bad it was.
Raw.
Yeah, and he goes, oh, it's all right you drove down there. You don't have to go back if you don't want to. And the paper's going to pay you for your time driving up there and coming back, so you don't have to worry about that. And then after that, he started laughing at me. And the next day I saw him in the morning, and he just laughed and laughed and laughed. And, you couldn't help but laugh about how ridiculous it was. Yeah.
But how many bosses would have made you go back the next day to cover it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
he said, don't worry about it.
He said, don't worry about it. It's fine.
Yeah.
You're good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was Dennis.
Laughing at you, you're right. He would laugh at you.
Yeah, he loved it.
With you, at you, a little bit of both, he would have a good chuckle.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love the sayings. He'll always say, we're in agreement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Not we're in agreement. We're in agreement.
That's right.
I don't know where he got that from.
He just liked to name stuff, sports shorts.
Yeah.
And then the reason he named it Victoria's Secret,
that way in our system.
Yes.
It's Victoria's Secret.
Yeah. People who read it would never know it's called that. But yeah, on the servers it was called Victoria's Secret because I wanted to change it to something I knew I'd never delete again.
God, sports shorts. I forgot all about sports shorts.
Sports potpourri.
Yeah, sports potpourri.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And when he would send out an all-out email it was sports aficionados.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. And was it you that said, what was it? This is what I know, or was it you that said that? That he would always say, this is what I know. This is what.
No.
Was it you?
Yeah. So, that's what I know.
That's what I know.
So we still say that in my house today. Well, that's what I know.
That's what I know.
And that was just a thing he.
Yeah, you would just be talking about, wow, that Taylor Swift, she can really write a song. This is what I know.
Yeah, 100%. Wow, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I think another one of Dennis's work philosophies goes back. I don't know if he would ever tell you guys this, but when he was having a bad day, he would say, I used to work at this gas station in California.
I remember the gas station.
And there's some days when I'm putting up with these mental midgets that there's some days where I would like to go back and work at that gas station. And I think in his mind, that was how he viewed some days at that desk. It was just like, I'm just going to sit here. Work's going to pass through as it needs to. I'm not going to stress about it. The level of this needs to be the level of waiting for a person to pull up. You can put gas in the car and they drive away.
Right. Mm-hmm. Had also been in the U.S. Marine Corps, which compared to being sports there at the News-Times, probably a lot more stressful and a lot more hard. And he was like, I've done harder things than this.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Also, super laid back. Like again, Evans didn't like covering baseball. Evans liked covering soccer, so Evans covered soccer to your heart's delight. Because he was like, if that's what you want to cover, go cover it.
Yeah.
Somebody else can cover baseball.
That's right.
And if you did, and he would always like send out the schedule. I remember at the beginning of the week, and he'd be like, as always, if you've got anything going on, family thing,
That's right.
just let me know, and you don't have to cover that thing that night that you have that thing. I mean, there was no like this has to, other than Big Rock or maybe like.
Right, you knew that was on your calendar. You have to be at those things,
Or state championship or something.
Right.
You know, everything else was on could be taken off the schedule.
Or two county schools are playing each other, like it's a big game.
But, yeah.
Somebody needs to be
Otherwise,
there.
he's about as cool as they could get.
Yeah. That's right.
Press days, we got to see the anger sometimes.
Yes.
God bless him. He was always late. Always the last person to get the pages in.
The most creative headline writer ever. He would
my.
just go. He was a good. He was really good headline writer. But I love walking by his computer and seeing like that really big, like 82-point font up on a screen, and he's just like working it,
and then knocking it down.
Yeah.
And it would never fail. He would always be late, and then so the system would crash or something, and he would turn about the color of fuchsia, and banging on the keyboard, this GD thing, damn this thing, and then he'd bring himself down and finish it up and stuff. What was the other line he always say? He'd go, talking about trying to fill holes on the pages or something. He'd be like, it's kind of like at the bar, the ladies look better at 2 a.m. It's like, it might not be pretty, but right now with the way things are, I'm just going to fill this spot, and that's good enough. Yeah.
Being able to like boil it down a little bit, he used to say that about my columns as well, because I love that he let me have that creative expression. I never had anything like that before. And being able to have it meant a lot to me. But he was always like, when he would write his, it's like, well, it's long enough to take a crap. that's what it needed to be. Like he said, most people are just reading this on the toilet, and it needs to be over before they're done with their crap. It's like I spent hours writing this, Dennis, but at the end of the day, it's just to keep somebody, because they don't have phones to scroll through. I guess they're going to be reading my column.
Another thing that tickled me is when he would go in the back to get something, and kudos. Dennis has some great legs. Like softballs for calves.
That's right.
And the ladies would comment on him when he went back, and he'd come out again, fuchsia. He'd be red in the face. I'd be like, "What happened back there, DT?" He'd be like, "Nothing." I was like, "No, something happened back there." He's like, "Them ladies are always commenting on my legs," and God, it embarrassed him to know. And then that woman, the one who was the main culprit, went and was in the deli department at Lowe's, and he loved to go to Lowe's and get like the broccoli salad and the chicken salad, and he dreaded it so much because he knew if she was there, she was going to comment on his legs, and he just could not stand anybody talking about his legs. But you could have Dennis. He has some really good legs. I also loved. He looked like he was going camping when he showed up to work on press days.
Yes. Well, because he was.
Brought everything with him.
He was coming from the bird.
He had like a go bag with him,
and he had that old van, and the van, like, who knew if it was going to run? So he literally had a sleeping bag in the van.
Yeah. He was just okay with that. He would also come in pretty late on press day too. And so it was just like, I'm not in no rush. Like I'll be here until it's done, and if I don't feel like driving home, I'll sleep in the car. It's fine.
He would always ask, "If you need a snack, I've got all I got."
It was like carrots and pretzels.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, he would just like open up the file cabinet drawer. It was more of a fridge than it was for papers.
Oh my God, he brought so much food. He had it like Atlantic was 3 hours away. I mean, it was a haul, but good Lord. Yeah.
I'm glad you brought up the headline thing. One of my favorite headlines of all time was from him, and he had some really great headlines. He was really good at that.
Well, that's a great segue, because let's talk about a headline. We'll go into Big Rock. And Craig and him were the first Big Rock, bureau chiefs of the overnight, the Daily Line we started putting out.
That's right,
Oh, Lord.
And you all were
very beginning
it
of
was
the Daily
like
Line.
10 o'clock at night starting, and you and him were there one night, and hilarity ensued.
Yes.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to tell all of this?
Yeah, I mean, it also goes on the talk station, but we can bleep that part.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, so it was the very first time we were doing Daily Line.
This is 07, 08 probably?
That sounds about right.
Summer of 08, I think.
Yeah, I mean, this is a color edition. Our pages were always black and white.
That's right, yeah.
So this was a big deal.
My gosh.
Yeah, this was a very big deal for us. And so we had to, usually we would only have like 3 editions a week. Right. So we had time to turn stories around, but this was like every day you had to turn around.
And it was big.
Yeah.
And you still had to do the other paper too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How many pages are we talking here?
I think it was like 20-something or 30.
Yeah, it had ads. A lot of
ads
ads stayed the same, but our editorial copy was the same. I think it was about 8 pages that we had to fill every day. So we had big photos and things like that. But so it's the first night. Dennis and I aren't paginators. We had never gone into whatever
You had to
program.
go to a school or something, right? A class. You had to take a class, wasn't it? InDesign class.
We did have to take an InDesign class,
Yeah.
but it didn't help.
No, you need years of practice on that.
You need some help. Yeah. So we had never exported pages
Oh
for anybody who
my
doesn't know all
God,
this
you guys
stuff.
are here by yourself?
It was just the two of us.
Because
Everybody
when
else,
I started, you had just recently transferred from the old printing press,
that's
right?
When I started, we were shooting on film. We were shooting pages on film. We were printing stories out of a paper printer
yeah.
and then running it through a wax machine, sticking it to a wall, exactoing it out. This is how old I am.
How are you, Greg? Give it away here.
I'll be 50 this week, actually. But so we would cut the stories out and stick them to the wall, and then a guy named Van would take a big photo of them, right? And then that's how you would make the plates. But anyway, so we had just transitioned to the digital platform, so we didn't know how to do any of this, but they left us to our own devices. Yeah, so it was
Unreal.
like, I don't know, 11 o'clock at night, we got the stories in. Dennis is trying to get the pages laid out, and banging on the desk, like that was happening constantly. And Dennis and I always got along so well. Like,
Oh, no.
very rarely would it get tense with us. And that was the very first time where it was like we were both at the ends of our rope, because it's like old man with technology, and I speak about myself too. Like this isn't working. I want
Well,
this
you've been
to
out
work.
reporting and covering.
Exactly,
Have you
yeah.
both been out there recovering, or?
I can't remember if Dennis had been
Okay,
covered, but I don't
okay.
think he was.
No,
I think
okay.
I think it was just me and Dylan might have been taking photos.
There you go.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, there you go.
Yeah, Dennis was there to do the layout and write headlines.
So you're
and
already
drop the
kind of
stories.
exhausted and
Yeah, it's
ready
been a
to be
long
done.
day.
Yeah,
It's been a long day. And
And,
so
and it's not a chilly time of year.
no,
You're at the
yeah, I was
docks
hot, I
in
was
the
tired.
90s for
Yeah.
5,
You gotta
6
go back out
hours.
tomorrow.
Yeah,
You gotta
exactly.
go right back out tomorrow.
And that was the other thing. Like I knew, at 9
Yeah.
o'clock the next morning, I was going to be back on again.
Absolutely.
One way or the other. But yeah, so we're sitting there, we're trying to figure it out. There's nobody answering the phone because we have no help there. So
Holy.
we're just like trying to learn InDesign, knowing that everybody is from the press room is coming in at 4 o'clock in the morning to run those plates, however they look. And so we're trying to figure all this out. And so Dennis and I are getting like tense with each other. And it's obvious that like one of us is about to pop, and then he just gets up and walks out the door. Walks out the door. You know where like the side entrance was, where the desks were, and where his van was, and he goes and he gets in his van and he leaves. And I'm like, okay. It's finally reached that point. Like he's going to California to go pump gas again, right? And he came back about 5 minutes later with a plastic bag, and he opened it up and he set a beer down, and he got a beer out as well. And he popped a beer, and he said, we're just going to sit here and relax for a minute. And so him and I both had a beer at our desks right there in that moment. And then he started to write a headline in the largest point size possible, F*** this. It was just those 2 words, top of the line, couldn't be any bigger. And we had the biggest laugh of our lives, because it was one of those moments where we were just insane, right? It had been a long
Right.
day, we're hot, we're tired, we needed that release.
Right.
We both doubled over in laughter, and then we got it done.
Yeah.
Unreal.
Yeah.
And it went a little smoother after that.
It did,
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sure they learned the mistakes that were
Right.
made, and the complaints that Dennis and I made the next morning, I think helped.
Right,
fix-
probably that first night was the most.
The first
Well, I
night
think
was-
when we came in that next morning, I think that was up on the wall.
That's right. That's right. He had printed a version of that and left it out for whoever came in the morning. So they had the plates, but then they had the Dennis Thomason version of the headline that was going
In full
out.
color, right?
for
Yeah.
everybody to see.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that was
right.
fantastic. Oh my God. I think that now I'm thinking back, I think that was the summer of 07 maybe when we started that. And that's my favorite memories of Dennis is when I started, Craig was the big rock guy. And then Craig left like a year after I was the first time that they had 3 sports guys, Dennis, Craig, and then it was me. And then Craig left about a year and started doing This Week magazine. So now I'm like the senior guy, and he hires Evans. He's like, well, you're the senior guy now. Do you want to take over Big Rock? I'm like, hell no. I saw what that was. Evans can have that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Evans, 5 years with Evans, and Evans leaves. He hires Nick Hall, who's also a News-Times guy.
100%. Big Rock, road races.
He was like-
any fishing tournament was
Yeah,
given my
he's
way.
like, you want to do the Big Rock now? You want Nick to do it? Nick can have it. And Nick stayed about a year and a half. Then Zack comes on. He goes, "Do you want?" Every time I passed it on three
not right.
times.
No, that's
I was
not.
like, I don't.
That's not right.
No,
I started
Sounds like
it.
a- yeah, it
guess
sounds like a
that's-
senior thing to do. I
That is.
don't feel like.
No offense to Big Rock, because it's an awesome thing.
Oh, yeah.
It's the Super Bowl of Carteret
Absolutely.
County sports, both
Yeah.
for them and for us. I mean, it's amazing.
Well,
but
and-
it's a hard cover.
And I'll be honest, by the time I got to it, so like I covered Big Rock for 10 years. 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th year was a little different cover than the first couple of years.
Yeah.
I was still
You're burned out.
Well, and I was still trying to do it like, Evans is famous. Is that or infamous famous?
Probably.
For staying the entire time at that award ceremony in 2010.
Yes, that's
And
right.
if that had not, if you had not been dedicated to staying there, we would possibly never have known
That's
what had happened.
That's citation year, right?
That's correct.
That is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember
And
that.
so, like, by my 7th,
Well, they loved Evans so much that when he stopped working at the News-Times, they did like a film montage.
That's true. When I
At
went
the
off
Big
to
Rock
law school.
Trophy.
Yeah, at the last
at the
year, because
awards dinner.
that was literally a few weeks before I left to go to
Yeah.
law school, and
How about
they did
that?
it. Yeah, they did. That was pretty special.
Yeah.
I mean, interestingly enough, when you say that about that, that's probably one of the biggest stories I ever covered. And, I'm just sitting there and everything seems kind of normal. And, there's people hushed in the back and you just think, okay, well, that's kind of weird. And then all of a sudden, Tommy Bennett, everybody knows Tommy.
You're right.
He comes out and he was the one who was doing the show
the
year.
MC, yeah.
The MC, and he goes, well, I know y'all are all expecting I know y'all are thinking about but we're not giving out that award tonight. Thank you. Y'all have a good night. and this is when, now they do.
You're looking around.
I'm looking around like, what in the world? And
a
I
prank
go
or
up to him.
something.
And I go up to him. I'm like, is that? He goes, you weren't expecting that, were you? And I said, no. What's going on? He goes, well, I can't really talk about it. I was like, come on, you got to tell me something. And so he kind of goes into it a little bit, and I was the only one there covering it. The
Sure.
the TV stations had already run with
Had
the
long left.
the citation had won, and
Yeah.
so the next morning we were the only ones that said, hey, Big Rock has not given the win to the citation. So that was pretty cool to be there for that.
Yeah.
Whether it was Craig or Evans or Zack, they would be at the docks for big parts of the day. They would write up their stories, and eventually they would get to go home because they had put in like 12, 14-hour days. So my job has always been, the whole time I was at the newspaper until recently.
Oh, that's right. You were at the.
I was like the secondary guy.
Yeah.
I would come in and help I would stay all night because I'm a night owl anyway, so it didn't make any difference to me. And then he would be like, I would help put the regular pages together because we still had to put out three issues a week. And I would be writing up, and inevitably during the night he'd be like, we got a 12-inch hole on this page. Can you come up with something, some stats or some total releases over the last 10 years or something like that? But we would be there at night, just be the two of us. And it'd be so quiet, and we would hear something, and we'd be scared to death that the poltergeist is going to come get us or something. Yeah. But we would just have these long, like Craig said, talking about Davidson County stuff. We would just talk about growing up and family, and Dennis lived down east the entire time almost. He worked at the News-Times. He worked to Atlantic, the Purr. And he talked about how much he loved living down there because he was from Davidson County.
Yep.
And he's like, my crowd's bootleggers and crazy people. And he goes, I'm used to that. Down east is my people.
That's right.
And we would gossip about people to the Purr and stuff. And he would talk me all these stories that we'll get into about Dennis's life, how he's just led some kind of life. And God, those nights were just amazing. Just inevitably, every year he would come up with something where you'd be like, who is this person?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we can get into that. First thing, when he tells you that he played on a state championship football team.
That's right.
And played college football, and you look at him and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
You're 5'4". You've got a beach ball underneath your polo shirt.
But there's a reason why they called him Stump and not like beach ball. Like he wasn't soft and doughy. Like he was a stout. Like, I'm sure he just like hammered through there.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
And every time he told me something, I was like, he's so full of poop. Like, come on. And then I go home and I do digital newspapers, the Lexington, and in 1967, fullback Dennis Thomason plunged it in from 1 yard out in the state championship game. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, he's not lying. He played in the state championship game at Lexington County. And then I'm like, he's like, yeah, I played at App State. I'm like, come on, man, you're a college football player? Come on. Then you go Google, Appalachian State, 1968 roster. There he is.
That's right.
Every time it was confirmed, I'm like, well, he's not a liar. It's just hard to believe when you look at him that he did all these things.
But it's not. But at the same token, it wasn't hard to believe. Just knowing Dennis and then hearing like the college football player, but he was also in the Marines. But then he was also the what was it that he was where he played in the band for the NFL?
McNamara's band.
Yes.
Yeah.
The San Diego Padres.
Padres.
The Padres. That's right.
Yeah.
Padres. Yeah. And you could just see Dennis Dennis, pounding 3 or 4 beers and then just being a parade out there. But it was also the same man who talks about how he was in the Marines and was like a college football player and this, and he cared nothing about, like you said earlier, he really wasn't a sports guy. He loved racing,
Right.
But I mean, it all just sort of fit. I don't understand. It just did.
And he also wasn't like a hoorah Marine guy either.
No,
Like he was
no.
very matter of fact about this was
Yeah.
part of my life.
Yeah.
Like he had all these little secrets of who
Oh my
he was
gosh.
that we just never.
Certainly
he would just give you little clues.
A character out of a book.
And you can Google that, McNamara's Band, San Diego Padres, and you'll find old San Diego Tribune newspaper stories.
Right.
And they mentioned Dennis. Unfortunately,
Now, what was he? He was.
Unfortunately, I think they called him Dennis Thompson in the
Oh.
story. Yeah, because Thomason's not a great name
Now,
for.
what did he play?
He was the
big drum or,
he was the drum guy.
Yeah,
the bass drum, I thought.
Yes,
Yeah, the big bass drum. Yeah.
And there was a tuba guy, and they had like these little kids that would dance. And and it got so popular that they started like renting them out to other stadiums around the country, and would fly them like to Detroit for Lions games. And you're like, what? What are you talking about?
Exactly.
This is crazy. And then you're working at the paper for 7 years, and then he's like, yeah, I tried to be an actor one time.
That's
I went to
right.
London.
Yeah.
I was
I
in a
was in a
play.
play.
Oh, yeah, I forgot
That's
about
right.
that.
With
Ed Harris.
Ed Harris. And you're like, what?
That's right.
Who are you?
Yeah.
I think in my column I mentioned he was the Dosaki, the most interesting man in the world.
Yeah, he really was.
It was always something.
So that makes me think of something else. So I never got a chance to hang out with Dennis outside of work.
Okay.
I tried a couple of times, tried to organize it, but I could never be a part of this other life, this other world that he had. Like, so I never got to see him in the per. After I moved away, I would ask him, let's get our schedule up so I can come see you if like I was playing a show or something. But he was very much a homebody.
Oh my
so I
gosh.
could never really
Yeah.
get him to meet me anywhere for anything.
So ironically, when I got hired, I found out that my family had an interaction with him, and I same as you. I've never hung out with him I never saw him outside of work. I only drove by his house for the first time a couple months ago
that's
when I went to Atlantic for that story.
He didn't venture far from the perp.
No, well, I mean, it was a beautiful little home, and
He
little
loved being
pocket
tucked
of-
away. That's
That's
right.
right. So he was into sailing, and my family was really big into sailing growing up. And my granddad, his son, my uncle, needed a sailboat, and they bought one from Dennis.
Okay.
It was a what kind of sailboat? Oh, it's this
Sunfish?
No,
He
it's
had a sunfish. He did have a
slightly
sunfish,
bigger than a
Yeah.
sunfish. I can't remember the name of it. But he went there and he remembered my granddad because my granddad had a funny drink that he liked to mix Tang with rum. Like the Tang, like the powdered.
Yeah.
With rum, and that was his drink. And Dennis said, "I've never heard of that. Go ahead and make me one." And they had one together.
That sounds like Dennis.
That's what it is. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Try it for once.
That's why I always want to hang out with Dennis outside of work because I just feel like that's the
you
guy
have
he
a
is.
story to tell.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Have a
of
good
course.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd always talk about you going to have a scotch after work or something, but just could never make it happen.
Well, the same thing when he left. He left the News-Times in October-ish last year, November.
Yeah, something like that.
And me and Zack were like, we're going to do two things. We're going to go down there. We're going to take him out to supper one night. And we're also going to have him on the podcast and tell about 35 years of covering.
Oh, yeah.
And you just, like you said, you couldn't get him lined up. You couldn't get him
It
out
was
of the
hard to
house.
peg down.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny, these communities, and Craig mentioned the Marine Corps. He was a football guy, so he was in that community. He was in the Marine Corps, so he was in that community. He was apparently musical, so he was in the McNamara Band.
Yeah.
He was in
In
that
the theater community.
That theater
Yeah, that's
community.
right.
He
Yeah.
comes down here, and in San Diego it started, and it continued here. He was in the sailing community. He was in the running community. He had all of these different, just
and I think
eclectic.
that's
Who has all those
That's right.
together?
That's what made it so easy to be his employee, is that whatever part of you, like I would never have thought you were a theater major in college, whatever part of you that you felt was unique or something
he
that
had
was
that.
he had that.
That's
in him
right.
somewhere.
Yeah.
Right.
He wasn't an overly sports guy. He was a writer. He was a man of the world. He was curious about things, and if you had any part of that in you, and he was performative. He fit that somewhere.
Yeah.
And I think that made it really nice to have him as a boss.
I was just doing a story on a couple of coaches that passed away, Bruce McBride and George Varick, and both guys like 30 years in Carteret County, and so I'm doing the Dennis Thomason rule that you talk to 3 people. That's the perfect number of people to talk to for a story. So I'm trying to find 3 people for each one of them, and they're both like at West at the same time, so I don't want like carryover. I want 3 individual. Right. So I got it with Mike Bradley, who
Yep.
coached at West forever, football and basketball. And before we get off the phone, he goes, "What's Dennis up to?" And unfortunately, I had to tell him they had passed away. He goes, "He took me sailing one time."
Oh yeah, I'm
And-
so jealous.
And he goes, "I want to tell you, my sphincter was puckering." He said, "I didn't think I was going to make it home that night." He goes, "We were out there for a long time. We went real far off, and I kept on saying, I hope this guy knows what he's doing." But I was like, God, everybody's probably got a Dennis story. Everybody's, had some, whether it was, and you talked to like the Teachies, Sonny Hyman and his
Oh, yeah,
wife. He was in those groups. Tabby Nance.
Yeah.
Jim Davis, Davis Handy House, and he was in the triathlon down at sea level. And he was on all these groups. I mean, he just had all these varied friend groups that was just, that tells you who Dennis was. I'll tell you another way Dennis was, and this is Dennis just being a sweetheart that he was. When they hired me, it was 3 sports reporters, I guess, for the first time. And then Evans took over after Craig left and sports. And, things got, it was 07, 08, 09. The economy's not great.
That's right, yeah.
And the powers that be at the News-Times was like, 3 sports reporters is a lot for a small town newspaper.
Yep.
They were like,
I'm pretty sure we're the only one
yeah.
east of Raleigh
Oh, my
that
gosh.
came close to that.
so like, we need to knock it back down to 2. And he went to the bosses because you had just had.
Yeah. I just had my second. Yeah, I just had my second.
And Dennis
my
told him.
daughter. Yeah, he said, no,
You can't?
You can't let him go.
Can't fire him.
No.
He just had a kid.
Yeah.
So,
that-
don't do it.
Yeah. And then, even more than that, at that point, everybody came in on press day, like we've talked about. Everybody had to come in on press day. And press day was what, Monday, Wednesday, and
Friday.
Friday.
Saturday, I
Saturday,
guess.
Monday, Wednesday,
Wednesday, Friday, Saturday.
Wednesday, Friday, Saturday.
There
That's
you
right.
go.
Yeah. And I was talking to him just just having a conversation while we were sitting at our desk typing up something. It was in the afternoon, and I was just talking about how much daycare was and how crazy
Yes, thank
expensive
you.
it was. And I was just, I can't, I was just, it wasn't like I was hinting at anything or I was saying anything about it other than, this is not fun to have to pay this
Fact of
amount.
life, yeah.
Right, yeah. And he goes,
It was like a mortgage payment.
yeah,
right?
it was a
shocking.
It still is.
It's shocking
Yeah.
once you get into
And
that
Dennis
world.
goes, how much is it? And I said, it's about this much. He goes, really? I said, yeah. He goes, well, and why are you paying that? I said, well, because I got to come in here. Luckily, most of the sporting events came in the afternoons, and at that point, we had somebody else to watch. But
Right.
he said, well, so you're just paying that so that y'all can come, so that you can come here? Because my wife at the time had a full-time job, and it was a 9-to-5 thing. She worked at a dentist office, so she couldn't watch them. And I said, yeah. And he goes, well, would you have to pay it and do that if you didn't have to come in? I said, no. He goes, so then don't come in anymore. And I was like, really? Because press day is a big deal.
Yeah.
It is all hands on deck, like you said. You got a deadline and you got to hit it.
And you've got to watch me. We got to look over each other. We got to
Yeah.
edit each other. And
Right.
pass things back and forth. Yeah.
And this part of the story, hey, is that right? Is that really what happened? And it was a big deal. And he was just, nah. He goes, you'll be in on Saturday. He goes, he says, just make sure you got your phone on. If I got a question, I'll call you.
Oh my God, that's exactly how he said it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly, yeah. It was, and I was just like, no.
Word for word.
I was
wow.
like, really? Really? And he's like, yeah, that's no problem. And he looked at me like, why are you shocked at this? Like, this is no and it was a big deal for him to say that. So, yeah.
I think he always understood the importance of life being way more important than work. Right?
Always.
And people say family first and things like that, but I mean, he really did that.
Yeah,
he went to bat for you
Yeah.
and found a solution for you. And I think you saw that. Like, even when things can be, very bad at home, that you can still find a way to make things easier for somebody's life, even if it's just like small, kind gestures of time and just kind of sticking up for somebody.
He kind of did the same thing again when the pandemic hit. And again, 3 sports reporters is a lot during a
Wow.
global pandemic.
Yeah.
Powers that be was like
Unemployment
3.
was looking pretty nice. Though. Yeah. No, we found ways to make it through.
But Dennis came in and was like, if you're going to get rid of somebody, get rid of me.
yeah.
So always going to bat for his guys,
That's
always
right.
looking out, and you couldn't just ask for a better boss. Did you? Oh, you said you found an email from Dennis.
I did,
Yeah.
because Dennis became my reference from the moment I left the News-Times. I said, I will always put you down as a reference, and he always said, anytime. And he would give me whatever numbers he had. But yeah, it was just so funny because even in that email, we would still like catch up with each other and talk about, what's going on with their family or kids or, And even in that, he still joked about that night of the Daily Line. That he put that headline in the email that he sent back to me. I was trying to get him to come hang out with me when I was going to be in town that weekend as well. And it was like, I can't. I've got to train your replacement's replacement. Evans is going to law school, and so I've got to help train whoever.
Okay.
I guess it was Nick at that point.
Oh, yeah.
But it was. I was laughing while reading that email because it was like I could just hear his voice in it. Yeah.
One of my biggest regrets in life is me and Dennis were going back and forth via Yahoo, my Yahoo account. When I first started, I'm like, this is how old I am. And
I still have a Yahoo account, by the way.
you do. No, I'm literally emailing you today about
literally have a
Yahoo account.
Well, let's go ahead and do the theme song. Yahoo!
And I didn't use it forever, and I went back 1 year to find those old emails, and Yahoo just said, no, if you don't use it, you lose it. And they'd completely gotten rid of it. So all those emails between me and back and forth, me and Dennis, back in the day when I started, 07, gone for all eternity, and I'm just like, oh my God.
Yeah, Gmail cleans it out. I can't. Far back as it goes is it's 18, 17, something like that.
But I tell you one thing I did find, and I say me, it wasn't me, it was Shannon Adams, shout out Shannon Adams, who looked up and found Dennis Thomason's first byline in the Carteret County News-Times.
Nice.
Wow.
All right.
And it is,
What is it?
Chef's Kiss. It is perfection. It is November 1, 1989. And because it's the 80s and it's the News-Times, of course, it's Seashore Soccer League.
Oh.
It is, he didn't give me the jump page. He only gave me the front page. The front page, it's like 20 to 25 inches. But here's the best part.
Of a Seashore Soccer League game.
A regular season game wrap up. But Billy Mays would say, but wait, there's more. It's 8 and under league. And there are quotes from the coaches.
That's what you do with the newbie. Yeah.
That's right. And all I could think of when he sent me that just a couple of days ago was, here's Dennis coming from the Thomasville newspaper, where football is big.
Yeah.
I think he covered a state championship there, maybe.
He probably, he was covering Thomasville, so definitely he just covered state
So
championship.
he's covered state championship football, and his first byline at the News-Times is 8 and under kids rec soccer, and he's getting quotes from the coaches. He's probably thinking, what have I done?
You know what, though? I bet he wasn't thinking that.
No.
You think about how we were with the first stories that we had. I don't know about you, but I took mine pretty seriously. I was like, he's telling me what I need to do, so I'm going to get the quotes.
Right.
I'm the greatest author that's ever lived.
That's right.
Every inch is
on
precious.
those.
Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if he treated it that way too.
That's true.
Because even when I started working there, his writing, he still was very, he cared about it. Even if it was sports shorts or editing somebody else's column, he still took his work very seriously.
Tell him about your first story, Evans.
Which one was the
That
first?
almost caused you to quit.
Which one was that?
Senior games.
Oh.
Where the agate was 100 inches.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it's not the seniors in this community are great. We love all the seniors and we love senior games. But one of the first things I got was it was, you'll just go out and cover this, just take a few pictures, it'll be fun. And I was like, oh, okay, that's great. No, literally the results were for, and they break it down within 10, and it starts at 65, and it goes from 65 to 6 to 70, 70 to 75. It was 20 different classifications.
And every track and field event.
Yes, and every track and field event. Male and female, first, second, third.
He was a big believer in that. People
yeah.
People going to buy the paper to see their name.
Yeah, that was it. Sell papers.
I mean, this was just the longest thing. I had no idea this even existed at the time, and I was just befuddled. I said, You really want me to write all? Yeah, oh yeah. That was more. That he was more intent. That was a more important thing to make sure that I got all these names and people's stuff correct than when you go out and cover the mullet bucket or something.
Yeah.
That was that to him was the biggest part. Like you said, was that we give these people, everybody in the community are the ones who this paper is for, and we make sure that they are recognized.
Whether it's 8 and under or 75.
And one time we looked it up, and he covered one Seashore Soccer League for you, didn't he?
Yeah, that's right.
We saw your picture. Your name was in the story. Your picture.
That's right.
Playing soccer.
Seashore Soccer League.
That's great.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, that's Dennis, and the thing I loved about him at the end was he would be like, look, I'm not trying to win awards. I'm not trying to get rich or famous. He goes, I'm a newspaper man. My job is to sell newspapers.
Yeah.
And the way you do that is you get names and faces in the newspaper.
Yeah.
Holy
And he didn't care if it was, again, he didn't care how big or small, if it was sailing, if it was donkey basketball.
I remember that. I remember donkey
We covered
basketball.
donkey basketball.
We did.
He was like, it's going to sell
exactly is
newspapers.
donkey basketball.
Literally, you name it. That's what it is. That's donkey basketball. People were on donkeys on basketball courts at the high school.
Okay,
Yeah.
riding
Shooting.
donkeys.
Shooting,
Oh,
yes.
okay, that makes
Yeah,
more
they're not
sense.
playing basketball.
The donkeys were. No.
Just kicking
That
balls
would,
around.
be, that would be pretty awesome, actually.
Yeah.
So when I knew we were going to do this podcast, I reached out to people and I was like, give me some stories or tell me. And so many people, the impact he had on people. People like Michael Turner, who talked about how sweet he was always to him and his wife and children. Shelton Mayo, Allison Graham, Tyler Pake, and you can just go on and on. And I think about, I wrote these columns, Zack and I wrote these columns about it, and I think one of us talked about how, God, just imagine in 35 years, the amount of time his name was in somebody's scrapbook.
Oh yeah.
The amount of times his name was on a refrigerator door. And just the legacy that he leaves of thousands of athletes he had to cover, not to mention Thomasville, however long he was there.
Yeah.
Thousands of student athletes who, to Dennis, it was one of 10,000 stories he wrote. But to that person, oh my God, everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It never ceased to amaze me how much people would save those stories. You would still find them in other places. You would go into restaurants and see them laminated or
100%.
pressed up on a wall.
The first time I ever understood it was at a friend's house, a friend of my wife's family they grew up together, and on the wall was her signing day story written by Dennis Thomason. And I mean, the way it was enshrined with all her other stuff and framed, I didn't understand until right then that it was that important to people.
He was a community newspaper man.
Sure.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he always knew that. Like when you talk about the agate for the senior games, beach run was always a long day
Oh,
because
that
everybody's
was
name was going to
beach
get in
run,
there.
yeah.
Beach run.
Everybody's name was going to get put in there.
Oh my
right?
God, the beach run.
And like even if it's a grip and grin of a team,
Uh-huh.
right? We're going to get everybody's name in that team, and we're going to know who they are, left or right, because he knew.
No, you're right.
It's going to
That's
be
right.
on somebody's fridge or in their scrapbook for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
The races, rotary races, Twin Bridges. He was like, put everybody's name in the.
Don't act like you wrote those.
That's right. No, you didn't.
I was never
You
the
made
race-
us right.
I was
Though.
never the race guy.
That's correct.
No.
We were out there in the
No.
beach run, 7 a.m. and
Yeah.
Emerald marathons, but you know what? It's it did mean something. And now as somebody that works with recreational sports, we just wrapped up a recreational basketball league, and what it would have meant to those kids if someone had
Oh
come
my
out
gosh.
from the newspaper to take photos, and it's
Right.
not what it's different nowadays than what it was, and that's nothing to do with it's just how newspapers, it's
Right.
just what it is, where we are, but
Yeah.
it really means something to be part of it. He instilled that in you to make you so you understood how important it was.
I would also say I think we know how lucky we were to be able to be sports reporters at a community newspaper.
100%.
No, if you've never done it, you don't know. High school sports can be so exciting, and like you didn't know before that until you were out there. Like even if you played high school, like you knew a little bit, but like to grow up and then have to come back and be there, and like it meant so much to those kids when we'd be there, being at Croatan in November. And as soon as you walk in there, it's like picture man, and then like everybody's like, they came up with chants for me.
Yeah.
While I was like, because they knew who we were, and we were going to be the ones who put their picture in the paper.
Yeah.
And like you got to see some really exciting stuff. You got to see these kids who would, they're being in their small town, and then they're playing for the NFL or they're playing
That's
for
right.
the Indians. And it's like this is a really cool thing to see that happen. And I think Dennis knew that. And going back to the beginnings of how we were hired, I think he wanted other people to experience that too, because in my experience with Dennis, I got there at a time where he wasn't really going into the field that much anymore, where he used to do it a lot, and he still wanted to be a part of it. But
So
I
he
think
could do it vicariously through your experience.
always support it, always say, here's the fun thing you can go do. And it was fun for me to go do. It was fun.
Yeah.
And he would do those things, especially when we had to cover like 2 football games in a night or something like that. But at the end of the day, I think he knew how valuable that was and wanted to like let other people experience that.
You're right. And you mentioned community, and I had waited tables and done things that had put me out in the community before, but nothing made me feel like I was part of the community, like working as a sports reporter did, where you're meeting people and you're shaking hands and you're saying hello to everybody at these games, where everybody was coming. It was commissioners and mayors and teachers and police officers, and when that camera goes up, and you're writing about these kids, you may as well be writing about college football or pro base. I don't know. It's weird to describe unless you've done it. That sometimes those kids loomed larger than life in that camera lens, or that what you were writing about felt just as important as what you were watching on TV.
Well, the last podcast episode we did was our top 10 games of all time that we covered. And I mentioned on that one, and I'll mention again, you can read interviews with big-time college, NFL beat writers, NBA, MLB, or whatever, and they'll tell you the thing that they always enjoy the most is when they covered high school sports.
Yeah.
Just the purity of it, the passion of it, the pageantry, rivalries, all that stuff. Nothing beats it.
And the access of it, how excited they are that you are there.
Yes.
as
Other than
well.
dreading
They have-
seeing you come in.
Yeah, that's right.
Like a
That's
college
it.
coach for an NFL
But like
coach.
nobody is big time there.
That's
like,
right.
Even the best player on the field wants you to take their picture.
You get thank yous by coaches at the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And go back to my Mike Bradley conversation. He went and coached in Charlotte and other places, and he goes, "Man, I still read y'all's newspapers." He goes, "You all, he said, from the 80s to now, still just covering high school sports." He was like, "That is so rare." He goes, "These kids in Charlotte never get a name in a newspaper.
Oh, no.
Never get a photo in a newspaper." He goes, "I wish people that live in Carteret County could go to other places for a little while and then come back." Because just to let them know how lucky they. I'm not saying that to pat ourselves on the back or anything, but
I'll say it. Of all the jobs I've had, I can't say one that was more fun than covering high school sports in Carteret
why
County.
do you think I'm still doing it?
Yeah, seriously, it's a lot of fun.
It is.
You guys know the hours can be hard,
Yes.
and that can take a toll on you. But when you're out there covering those games, time always goes by really fast, and you get caught up in it. You have fun with it. You're having fun with them. Unless it's the senior games.
And I
Or
covered it.
Kill Devil Heels.
I covered it about 5 years. I think Dennis, as a joke, after the first one, he's like, "Hey, senior games is coming up. Evans, you've got to do this one." Normally, you can do whatever you want.
You're the best for the job.
You cover state championship Legion baseball.
I did.
You went to Florida
That
with
was
those
so
guys.
cool. That was my first
You went
big
to
boy.
Florida?
That was my first
Florida.
big boy business trip. Well, actually, the first one was I won an award for one of my columns, which was so cool. But I won a national award, and they had the conference in Oklahoma City, and so the News-Times flew me out there and put me in a hotel to be able to go to the conference.
kidding.
Yeah.
Lockwood went out there as well.
That's right.
Yeah. So that was very cool. But so that was technically my first business trip. But yeah, I got to go to Florida and cover it. So I flew down there, and they let me rent a car and drive to, I think it was DeLand, and just see them play in the national tournament.
Did they win?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Well, that's
But
great.
they won the state.
But they
which
were
was-
the state
That's how they got there.
I
Yeah.
know.
But yeah, it was a lot of fun to go and still see them. Lonnie Chisenhall played with them at that. so-
Drew Polk.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. This was
Yeah.
that group. Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it was really cool. And
So you were just started.
I
or
just
about to
started. Craig had just
Yeah,
covered
yeah,
that,
yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
when I started. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you bring up big games, and I always credit Dennis. So, I started in November, and the following spring, JJ and I are both covering state championship bound. Well, I didn't know mine was East Carteret state championship bound
Girls
soccer teams, and so we're both covering regional finals. And
I
my
was covering
team,
Croatan.
Yep, at Washington, and I was at in Whiteville covering East Carteret.
Yeah.
Which will always be one of my all-time favorite memories of any job. And they win. Your team lost.
Right.
And I'm on my way home, and I'm calling Dennis.
And you've been on the job 6 months, right?
Literally, not even that.
Yeah,
and
4.
I said, obviously, JJ should be the one to go cover this. I mean, no, it's your team. You're going to go cover it. I said, you sure you trust me to go to NC State and cover it? He was like, oh, yeah, go for it. And I just thought, the level of faith that he instilled in you and be like, oh, you're going to do great. Because even if you don't do great, it's okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It felt that way.
that's so cool. So you got to cover a state championship.
I did.
5 months into the
5
job.
months
Wow,
in,
that's so
yeah.
cool.
It
Yeah.
was that, and it was East Carteret, which you all understand, and they were playing Community School of Davidson, and East scored the first goal, and I thought, I'm about to witness Hoosiers, level of, and it went to a shootout, a penalty kick, and then we did not win. But it was a great experience for sure.
Well, another thing I love about Dennis is, as you mentioned, I think living vicariously, he would tell you, I love reading that story.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he would.
It was like he was so excited just
Yeah.
for the county and for the local high schools and how well they were doing.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah, he stayed engaged. It wasn't like, ho-hum, I've read this story 1,000
That's
times
right.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That also reminds me. I remember early on, he used to edit my stories pretty heavily, and they needed it.
Yeah.
Right. But then later on, he was kind of let you be the writer that you needed to be.
Absolutely.
He let
Right.
you find your
Absolutely.
voice, and then you were off and running.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of faith, a lot of trust. That
Yeah.
God bless. That reminds me. Get choked up. he wanted me to pick out a password for my email. I was like, oh God, I don't know. And then finally he said, I'm going to give you faith because I want you to have faith in yourself, and I want you to know that I have faith in you.
That's all.
And I was just like,
man.
DT. So to this day, I've kept some variation
Really?
Yeah.
of faith with numbers or
Right,
underscores.
Yeah, because you got to have the numbers
Oh, yeah.
and the exclamation point.
That's
in
right.
there
Right
or whatever.
nowadays,
That's
yeah.
Which, when Dennis cusses, if you have to put that into print, that's what it looks like. It's all the ampersand,
Exactly.
pound sign,
Yeah,
percentage
that's right.
score, yeah.
Speaking of, you mentioned does anyone not use the exclamation point for those?
I was about to say, yeah, I don't know.
Does
I
anyone
do.
use a period or a question mark?
all
If you're
exclamation.
listening to this, please let us know
Yeah.
if you don't use it, because I'm pretty sure everybody uses the exclamation point.
Because they're mad that they have to
I
keep
think
coming
so.
up with passwords.
It's a-
Now you guys have out of JJ's password. We know his favorite couple numbers, and
Hacking my email.
you know his
email.
birth date or his wife's birth date. You figured it out.
Oh man!
All right, any last words on DT?
Just hearing everything going around. I mean, what a guy.
Yeah.
So lucky to have had him as a boss. I don't think I'll ever have a boss like him again. And someone that taught me how to look at things the way he did, which was a really good way.
Yeah. I thought about coming in here today. I was like, Dennis didn't have any kids, but we're Dennis's boys.
Yeah.
He hired all of us when he didn't have
Oh,
to,
stop it.
and taught us, God, so many things, whether it's life or newspapers. And Craig is going on to, you're the PIO for community college.
Yep, that's right.
Evans is an assistant district attorney. Zack is the first ever, Parks and Rec director of the town of Newport.
And JJ's still a sport
I'm
fighter.
just now I'm Dennis Thomason.
That's right.
Thank you all so much, Evans and Craig, for coming in and joining us today. We appreciate it.
This has been awesome. So great to talk about him.
Yeah.
He's such a great guy.